Hello, Christopher here with my partner Jay. Tonight we are talking the oldest team in the NFL, yet with less playoff appearances than Julian Edelman, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time, and a whole bunch of old dudes. As the Lunch Room Syndicate presents the Arizona Cardinals all-time team.
What tier system would you like to use here today? What are we doing?
Well, I believe we're going to go red, black, white. We'll
Okay.
start with the white tier, which is our bottom tier. These are guys that are on the list, deserving to be on the list for this particular team, but nothing real special about them beyond that. The black tier will be really good players, definitely deserve to be in the conversation, but not quite to our top tier, red tier. These are no brainers, no doubters, typically Hall of Famers, all time greats. You'll know them. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, we're going to be selecting 22 players for the team here. That's 11 on the offensive side, 11 on the defensive side. On offense, we're looking at one quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, and a tight end. The other four spots are going to be brought up in what we call the alternate O, and that is going to be from any position. So if they didn't quite make the starting spot at QB, and we have another player in mind, he's got another shot over here. We're also looking at offensive linemen, kickers, kick returners, and other various players that haven't quite made it yet.
Indeed. And we also have 11 players on the defensive side of the ball. We'll be selecting two defensive linemen that encompasses both defensive ends, defensive tackles, and nose tackles if you consider that a different position than defensive tackle. Three linebackers, four defensive backs, and two alternate defensive players, aka two guys that, just like the alternate offense, two guys from any position on defense that didn't quite make the starting lineups, and punters.
But before we get into which players are going to be making each individual position, we have our face of the franchise.
That we do, Jay, and oftentimes in these faces of the franchises, we like to have a little debate, even if we know one of us is not going to be the right call. We usually like to debate, and this one's pretty easy. For me, it's Larry Fitzgerald, and I think it's the same for you.
Larry Legend, of course, it's the same for me. It's my favorite wide receiver. Absolutely love Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Legend, this team, you mentioned that they have made the playoffs fewer times than Edelman as a franchise, the oldest franchise in the league. They were bad all the way up until Larry Fitzgerald. They have made the playoffs, I think, more times with Larry than without Larry Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. One of the best wide receivers of all time. Guy catches absolutely everything. He comes through early in his career and he gets criticized because he's a deep threat only. And so what does he do? He works on his route running and he turns into like a legitimate slot receiver, but not like a third string slot receiver because he's just got two guys that are better than him. It's because he can do whatever you need him to do. And if he can't do it yet, he will put in the work and get it done by tomorrow. We're going to be going off no fancy pick and choose here which positions we're going at. If there just makes sense here in football to go straight in order as we have them up. So we start off with quarterback, and we are looking at Jim Hart, Neil Lomax, Kyler Murray, Carson Palmer, Jake Plummer, and Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner is the guy I alluded to earlier. He's no more than a black tier here either. Really like Kurt Warner, but he did well with them for the short time.
Yeah, he have very short but very impressive run in Arizona. Obviously, throwing to Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolton helped that, but he really resurrected his career in Arizona, and I would tend to agree. I think he's probably a black tier, but yeah. But now we get to who our selection's going to be.
And well, Kyler Murray's out, although I probably would have gone with him just based off of what they're going to be able to do. I don't know. I already mentioned that I'm not a huge Carson Palmer fan. I'm between Neil Lomax and Kurt Warner.
Yeah, in a situation like this, Kurt Warner led the Arizona Cardinals to a Super Bowl. Now they didn't win it, but they came damn close and arguably should have won it. Now, granted, they were a 9-7 team. They weren't particularly good in the regular season, but so I'm gonna go with team success here, and I'm gonna give it to Kurt.
Okay. Well, what are we looking at for running backs?
Here on the running back side of the ball, we have Otis Anderson, Adrian James. That's right, he played in Arizona. David Johnson, Ollie Matson, Stump Mitchell, Jim Otis, and Charlie Trippy.
Otis Anderson is the first name on here. Otis Anderson is the first one that I think of with Arizona and running backs. Really impressive. But even with that, I don't know if I have him above a black tier.
It's hard because he's not a flashy name. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's had a long time in the NFL. He played like 7 more years for the Giants, although they weren't really spectacular. It's hard for me to. He has over 10,000 total yards, which is good, but I'm with you. I don't think it's hard for me to put him above a black here. Ollie Matson is an interesting one. And we may or may not be seeing him again in the future. We'll talk about that. Foreshadow.
Man, this team is not good. Oh, Charlie Trippy here, Hall of Famer, way back before any of us were ever alive. So I have nothing on him. I don't even see, like, looking at players that he would have been playing with. I don't understand how he's necessarily a Hall of Famer on here. So black tier. We need 2 names up there. I have the 2 that I'm leaning towards.
Otis Anderson is probably the surefire number 1 here. We'll let you pick number 2 because I'm leaning toward. We might have a double. We'll just put it that way. We might have someone on there twice. We could have a Deion Sanders from a guy from the 40s.
Both of them on the offense?
Yeah.
Well, we can't have that then. You can only play on offense once. Wide receiver core. Anquan Bolden, Larry Legend, Roy Green, Mel Gray, DeAndre Hopkins, Rob Moore, Frank Sanders, Pat Tilley, and finally a decent core of players to choose from. Fitzy, we talked about quite a bit. He's red tier.
Anquan Bolden came in a couple years before Larry Fitzgerald. Ended up getting overshadowed a bit by him.
The first couple of years, he overshadowed Larry.
Yeah, he was an excellent wide receiver. He's a red tier with ease. And I don't know if he's going to be a very first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he's eligible this year for the first time or next year. But he has over 1,000 receptions. This dude was a beast.
Pat Tilley. We're going to have to go back a little ways to get to a Pat Tilley. Pat Tilley is a red tier for me.
Yeah, Pat Tilley is a underrated wide receiver in NFL history. One of the more underrated ones, and these are damn good ones. Our wide receivers are Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, and Pat Tilley.
All right. Now we come up to decision time. The tight end position for the Arizona Cardinals. We are choosing between.
Toughest position ever.
Jay Smith.
Yeah. And that's it. This is not on accident. I didn't forget names. This is a combination of Jackie Smith being a legendary tight end in the NFL history and Arizona's rest of their tight end core being really bad.
Okay, so we're now off to the Alt-O again. 4 selections here. We are looking at Bob DeMarco, Dan Deerdorf, Ken Gray, Ali Madison,
Yes.
Ernie McMillan, Louis Sharp, Duke Slater, Neil Lomax, Mel Gray, Roy Green. Who's not a low-end red tier? Dan Deerdorf. He would have been my second. Like, if we really stretched that out and wanted to make a debate on who the face of the franchise was, I would have thrown him up there. But again, he's way behind Larry. It's an easy decision for Larry. But Dan Deerdorf is damn good. That's 5 first-team All-Pro appearances.
Duke Slater, he was a lineman, and this is important. He's on this list. He's a Hall of Famer. I gave you his years, 1926 through 1931. And the reason why he's a red tier here, despite the limited amount of games played, is he's the first black lineman in NFL history. So for that alone, we do put other things, not just on the field stuff, but stuff like that into consideration. So Duke Slater here is a red tier for me.
You know why I'm putting him at a red tier?
Because he has a badass name, Duke Slater?
Yeah, that's probably secondary. You look at his jersey, that 1 is perfectly centered, and then they threw a 6 off to the side.
That's a good point. I didn't notice that. Roy Green, from the, I think, 80s. Roy Green, 522 receptions. A good amount of yards off those receptions, over 8,000, 66 TDs. He's a bit of a hard one because I want to go high-end black or low-end red.
Ali Madison, well, we already have him on the team, so we don't have to worry about him. He's on there. He doesn't get to go up. He can't play 2 spots at one time.
I mean, it could be a kick returner. Ali Madison, real quick, 9 return touchdowns. I didn't think we were going to pick. I didn't initially. The reason why he's here as well is I didn't think we were going to pick him for the running back spot. So I wanted to make sure he was over here anyway because.
Who did you think was going to be our number 2?
I thought it'd been possible we would have took one, Charlie Trippy.
Really?
Yeah. Because I mean they're both older guys for Hall of Famers. I knew Otis would be number 1, but yeah, Ali Madison. We already talked about him. Already on the team, so we don't need not much more.
Yeah. His kickoff return stats are substantially better than his halfback stats.
Ali Madison has better stats overall in less games, and that does matter here. But do we want both these players on the team over Bob DeMarco? I mean, there's a case to be had. They're both Hall of Famers, right?
Well,
but would it be a disservice to Ali Madison to be on the over the running back? I don't know, because he was a great special teamer, obviously, a great returner. I think that's one of the reasons why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Okay. Well, you're going to see some magic here and something we have not done before.
Right, folks? We changed our minds. So once again, just to reiterate where our Alt-O is, Dan Deerdorf, Duke Slater, Roy Green, and Ali Madison. But we are through with the offense already. It is time to go defensive. And it's time to start with the defensive line here in Arizona. We have Calais Campbell, Darnell Dockett, Curtis Greer, Freddie Joe Nunn, Simeon Rice, Eric Swan, and Chuck Walker. Surprisingly, in 102 years of existence, the Arizona Cardinals do not have a single Hall of Fame defensive lineman. That could change with Calais Campbell, but not a single one.
At the same time, it's not a bad group.
No, it is not a bad group. It is a solid group.
So you already mentioned, I think you spoiled Calais Campbell. So does that mean you're putting him red tier?
Yes, he's a red tier for me. Even though it's arguable his best years are actually in Jacksonville, but he was a really good player in Arizona as well.
Darnell Dockett is the first name that I think of when we're talking defensive line for the Arizona Cardinals. He didn't have as many sacks there as Calais Campbell. He did play more games. Got another Pro Bowl on there, which is iffy whether or not how much credit we want to give to those. I still think he's a red tier though.
I think I go with in some order Campbell Dockett. I don't know what order I even want to put them in.
I won't change the order from how they're on here. It'll be an easier copy paste, so they're going to go in that order by default.
Calais Campbell's a big dude. I don't want to piss him off.
So our defensive line for the Arizona Cardinals: Calais Campbell, Darnell Dockett. Up next, there's our linebacking core, in which we are looking at Carlos Dansby, Ken Harvey, Chandler Jones, EJ Jr., Bill Coleman, Dale Meinert, and Larry Stallings. Chandler Jones. How many sacks is that for Chandler Jones?
70 and a half.
70 and a half. All right, that's at least a black tier.
So
he's got 2 first time.
Oh, he's a red tier.
He's a red tier.
I was going to say, I was like, he's like my easy number one of the selection. Spoiler alert for me. Carlos Dansby, legitimately good linebacker. I would probably put him at red tier myself. He's a guy. He's one of those guys though. When we talk about how we want to tier, sometimes like, is he really an all-time great? Probably not. But for Arizona, he's an all-time great.
Yeah, that's the thing. If so when you said red, I'm like, man, I like Carlos Dansby, but he's probably black tier. And it really comes to it, and I think we've changed our minds just a couple times just on this team going position by position. Yes. Are we basing them off of like a tier list in the league or a tier list for this team?
Mm-hmm.
It's changed each time. So if you have made up your mind, linebackers, we're going off this team, then he's a red tier.
Dale Meinert, 9 interceptions, 125 games, 3-time Pro Bowler. That's good. Played in the older era as well. I think that's why we have no sacks for him, because he was pre-1960 all of his career. So I feel like it'd be a disservice to put him white tier, but he's a white tier for me.
Really?
I mean, if you want to put him black, I'd be okay with that.
I'd go black. I know the name.
Oh, you know what? Well, that's fair. You know that name from the 50s, then that's completely fair that he's at least a black tier then. And our linebackers are Chandler Jones, Carlos Dansby, and Dale Meinert.
And my favorite position, the defensive backs. We have Pat Fisher, Night Train Lane, Patrick Peterson, Pat Tillman, Roger Aeneas Williams, Adrian Wilson, and Larry Wilson.
This is in terms of depth, because I think obviously the wide receiver position for the Cardinals is really good too, but this is a legitimately great backfield grouping.
And this defensive back core is led by Night Train. I know his games played aren't as high, but this guy is all time. He's red tier.
Oh yeah, red tier. And when you talk about a guy from that old of an era, games played tends to get skewed low because they played a lot less games in general, 10, 11, 12 game seasons.
Man, what's up with all these red tiers? Because we got Aeneas Williams over here next. And, he's a red tier.
Yeah, Aeneas Williams. It's probably would be my number. Probably would have been my number 2 before thinking about Dan Dierdorf for face of the franchise.
Fisher, you goddamn bum.
Yeah, right.
Larry Wilson, he's another black tier. Not black tier, he's another red tier. Larry Wilson, he's another red tier. He's a Hall of Famer, and for damn good reason. That's 8 Pro Bowls, 5 first teams, 52 interceptions.
He also could rush past you. 21 sacks from the corner from the defensive backfield. Patrick Peterson ended his run in 2020 with was his last year in Arizona. Was a lockdown corner for many years. Also really good punt returns. Not enough to put him on the auto though. 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All Pro. He's a red tier for me. He's gonna be he's a borderline Hall of Famer. But now we got decisions to make because we have 6 red tiers in this fucker.
That's 6 players in the category of no shit. They're on this team, and only 4 of them can make it. So 2 of these no shit they're on this team not on the team. What's our defensive back situation looking like?
We have Night Train Lane, Aeneas Williams, Larry Wilson, and Patrick Peterson.
And finishing up here with the Alt-D, Scotty Playa, Simeon Rice, Curtis Greer, EJ Jr., Roger Worley, Adrian Wilson.
All right, so now let's talk the rest of the Alt-D here. Did we name all of those 2? Yeah, I mean,
isn't it?
Roger Worley, another Hall of Famer, 193 games played, 40 interceptions, 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All Pro. This dude is another fucking red tier. Adrian Wilson, another just absolute beast of a safety. I don't think he's eligible for the Hall of Fame just yet. Also could rush the passer from the safety spot. 25.5 sacks from the safety spot. That is damn good. 5-time Pro Bowl, first team All Pro, only one, 27. I would put him at red tier personally. But no, I'm with you. That's the 2 Alt-Ds with relative ease.
So our offensive lineup here for the Cardinals, we have Dan Deerdorf, Duke Slater, and I almost said a third name, but we took him off as our offensive linemen. We have Kurt Warner back behind our non-existent center, throwing it to Larry Fitzgerald, Jackie Smith, Anquan Bolden, Pat Tilley, and Roy Green. And in the backfield, Otis Anderson, Charlie Trippy, Ollie Matson, who's also a badass return man.
Let's go through the D lineup real quick here. In our very, very weird 2-3-6 defense, we have I don't even know what to call that. Like, I don't even know what type of defense that actually is.
The Arizona Special.
Yeah. I guess
I'd run this if I had this play. I'd be like, well, yeah.
Well, you have Chandler Jones back. Well, let's talk about it. We have Calais Campbell and Darnell Dockett on the true front lines. At linebacker, you have Chandler Jones, Carlos Dansby, and Dale Meinert. And then you have 6 just amazing defensive backs in Dick Night Train Lane, Aeneas Williams, Larry Wilson, Patrick Peterson, Roger Worley, and Adrian Wilson.
I want to thank everybody for joining us here at the Lunch Room Syndicate. This was the Arizona Cardinals all-time team, which is surprisingly better than both of us thought it was going to end up being from your 90-11 team or your 11-90 team. But thank you for joining us, and until next time, deuces.
One name not on this list is Emmett Smith. Yes, he spent 2 years there, but the less we talk about Emmett Smith's Arizona career, the better. Naturally.
I'm just going to have to steal the Doug theme song as the Lunchroom Syndicate theme.
Yeah, fuck copyrights.